All right. So dust is settled. Game's over. We now need to put ourselves in one of these camps. Are you Unai in or out? Because
what before the season, I said give him 2 or 3 years, and maybe 4 to 6 transfer windows. And what I expected going into the year, and at some point I'll go back and see whether I'm just talking out my ass now or whether I'm actually remembering this correctly. But I pretty much expected to hold steady from last season, and not regress. And I would have been thrilled with top 4 or a Europa League title to get us back in the Champions League. And frankly, it's a sucker punch right now that we don't have that. But, I'm going to stick to what I said before, because I think if we looked at the season like we follow a stock, it went up and up and up. It was down at the beginning, then it went way up, then it just went down. It jumped all around. It did the hokey pokey. Ultimately, though, I feel like the stock ended up a few percent on the year compared to the year before, in the sense that, we were one spot higher in the table and we went one stage further in the Europa League. And are we retiring on that stock and laughing all the way to the bank like some people? No, but in a year of transition, year of change, year of learning new styles, new management, just having changes around the Emirates and Colney all over the place, we lost nothing, on paper, and gained a little bit. So had we been 10th, and we've talked about this, if we were in 10th at the table at Christmas, and then we just had like a torrid run, say like 22 games without a loss or something towards the end of the season, and finished 1 point out of the top 4, we'd say, it was a normal transition year, and Emery finally showed his system was gradually catching on, and we'd be fine with it. The concerning thing is that the more the season went on, the less we saw of Emery's influence on the players. So here's where I fall. This summer, I look at ownership, I look at the board, whoever those people are, like you tweeted out today. I'm not sure we have one anymore. Sir Chips I don't really think has a job anymore. So I look to them and to Emery for insisting that we show some ambition, that we use the money that we all know that we have the ability to spend if we choose to, unlike in the last transfer window. It's a lot more than $40 million to make the obvious improvements that we need. And more than that, I look to see who we're ruthlessly shipping out. More to me about who we ship out than who we bring in at this point, although you can't do one without the other, obviously. So, but it's not even just to clear out space to bring new people in on the wage rolls. It's to clear out this loser mentality that we still clearly have in the dressing room. And then from August on, once the first ball is kicked, I look at Emery right smack dab in the eyes and his ability to get whatever players are still there to die for him, to play above their natural levels for him. Like I hate to say it, like Klopp and Pochettino's players do. And if we don't see that by May, if we're not like easily and squarely into Champions League for the following season, then I'm ready to say bye-bye to Emery, because I think it'll be on him at that point that this team still hasn't rolled over into a more winning mentality. What do you think?
I'll say it until I'm blue in the face. I'll judge him once his team is in place. I mean, lots has been said about him not knowing his style or system. I don't think we'll know that until he can fill the puzzle with his pieces. But just how long will he have? Because we have a manager who's coming in with a very limited budget, and if we allow him to spend 40 to 80 million pounds on players who fit his system, and then after a year we decide he's not the guy, and then we bring in someone else, then we're back in that revolvement of, well, we got to give this manager now time. So I don't know if we can bring in a manager of his level, above his level. Allegri's not going to come to Arsenal with a 40 million pound budget. I mean, it just
we don't have. I know what you mean, but
let's not get into the semantics. Let's just assume, Mike, it's 40 million, right? I mean, all the news outlets are saying it. So if you're a top manager, until you hear from Stan or Josh Kroenke themselves that that this is the budget, you're going off of what speculation and media is saying. You also don't know the internals of the club if you're a manager looking on the outside, who you could sell, whatever. So I think Emery is the right person for the job right now. I'll judge him at the end of the summer. I want to see what we do in the transfer window, what we're able to do in the transfer window. But again, if we can't, invest a ton of money and he doesn't get the opportunity to build the team the way he wants it this summer, is it fair to judge him? I don't know. I will say this. I'm really questioning my love for Unai based off of how we ended the season, knowing we only needed to get a minimum of 3 points from 9. It's just that's not good enough. And everyone is beating his quotes of the culture, well, I don't feel like I'm pressured. That's so taken out of context. The pressure at PSG, Mike, was you need to win the Champions League this season. That's the pressure at PSG when you're the manager. So you're every day driving and trying to meet that expectation. At Arsenal, he's not saying that there isn't pressure. He's saying it's a different pressure. He's been given the opportunity to lay the foundation and build upon it. So as we saw in the message and the email that came out, which, gets leaked immediately after it comes out, but hey, they saw this season as a wash. So anything that he did this season, whether it be Champions League football or getting to Europa League final, I think for the board and for the ownership, that is all positive to them. It's just seeing his ability. So they gave him a wash. Now it's what he's going to do to build on that foundation. And we're in that weird, do we rely on our youth for a while and rebuild? Like it's bizarre, man. It's a weird situation to be in as an Arsenal supporter.
Yeah, I mean, I've spent much of the last 5, and we are somewhat delving into this topic a little bit, but I've spent somewhat of the last 5 months since the we don't have enough money to do anything other than loan conversation really struck up the whole spending and wage limits and financial fair play and all that discussion. I've obviously gotten into it a lot and frankly into it a bit today with some people I really like. But we're complaining about the Rams stadium again, which is just a non-issue. But what I want to say though is that I am willing to defend the spending that we've done and the reasons why we can't spend more. I've been willing to differentiate that. People are wrong when they say Emery should spend millions of his own dollars on players, but Kroenke, should invest his own money in the team. I mean, I will never stop if I have the time and inclination trying to correct people on that because it's just flat wrong. It's not how it works. However, I do know because I've done a lot of research about how it works that we have a tremendous amount, even without Champions League, even without selling players for transfer fees, like the Mustafis of the world and like guys like that. Even without doing that, just the contracts falling off the books, plus the new revenues from commercial deals, we could spend a lot of money this summer, not just $40 million.
I just want to address
that we will. And that's going to be what I'm going to be watching, because if we cry poor throughout the entire summer and our actions by early August, when the window closes, end up showing that we either had this self-imposed $40 million budget or less, or constantly took the cheaper option on a player, I will speak out against that because, look, we have the money now. If we don't spend it and we still cry poor and we still try to pinch pennies, then we have absolutely no excuse.
So, no, I completely agree. And Archie in the chat saying Kroenke out, he wasn't even at the final.
He's not our
Stan Kroenke is not running Arsenal Football Club. Josh Kroenke is running Arsenal Football Club. Josh Kroenke was tasked to take over this team, and everyone wanted Arsene fired. Josh flew over, saw the issues, took care of it. Josh was at the final. Josh is running this team. Stan Kroenke does not give a shit about this team. Stan Kroenke cares about the LA Rams. If you think for a second that Josh Kroenke does not want Arsenal to win, you don't know the Kroenke family. He wants it. Just Google him and his interviews regarding the Nuggets, regarding the Avalanche, as well as Arsenal, because a lot of that is brought up in those articles. He gets 100% of the decision-making process. Stan does not give a shit. So at the end of the day, you know what? you can blame Stan all you want. He's not the guy to blame. If you're going to point fingers, you got to point it at Josh, and he is there. And I've heard, Mike, that he is living in London this summer. So whatever that means, I don't know, but I'm assuming it's because of Arsenal. So there's just.
I'm assuming it's because he can get kebabs much easier than in Denver, but
yeah.
And they're much better tasting. But yeah, I mean, that is true. And he's not a football man, though. He's an organizational man. And so I guess we'll see whether he's any good.
And again, and Archie, trust me, man, I support not one Stan Kroenke team. I support 4. So don't get me wrong. Like, it sucks.
You didn't pick them based on the fact that he was coaching.
Oh no. I've been. You know how long I've been an Arsenal supporter, and it sucks that he came in, and I just happened to live in Denver. But I will say this: even if Stan Kroenke came in and said, "Here's 200 million pounds for you to buy as many fucking players as you want," we cannot do that. That's not how it works. He can clear the debts. He can't just go to Unai and the board and go.
We don't have debts. That's
Well, and that's the whole thing. He can't come in and go, "Here's 200 million. Buy it. Spend all the money that you want on all the players." At the end of the day, he gave Arsene and Ivan the money to invest in the players they thought, and they fucked up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people at fault, and just to go, "Hey, Kroenke out. He sucks. He's the one. He's ruining the club." That's not how it works. It's deeper than that.
Yeah. You know what would help, though, is if someone from, some suburb of London, was able to give 200 quid to buy a new player, and and put it towards that. That is within financial fair play. So,
because Alonso, Josh putting money into Arsenal,
you can't put.
You can't put money into that. You can't.
It's like putting more. It's trying to stuff more coins into a full piggy bank when there's some rule that you can't spend money out of the piggy bank anymore than you already have.
And Archie, I'm not being disrespectful, dude. I know your frustration. Trust me, Mike's there too. There's more that comes to it, and don't get me wrong, man. We want you to continue listening. We're not being dicks. It's just it's so frustrating that we're in this scenario and that we have to wait years to get certain players out of contract. It's absolutely absurd. We're paying Ozil and Mkhitaryan £500,000 a week when they're both dog shit players. But that's what the old regime did. And at the end of the day, that's what we need to deal with. And I appreciate all of you in the chat not listening to these two idiots that are Chelsea supporters. Guys, get a life. Just go somewhere else.
I could kick you guys out of the chat, but I'm not going to. You guys could just keep. You can keep doing that. It's fine.
And we do make over 100 million a season. And you say I expect to be spent minimum every season. Mike, you're better with money than I am.
Our wage bill is 225 million this season. The wage bill is going to go up next season, hopefully, because that's where we have the money to spend it. Are we profitable? Depends on the. We're starting to not be because of the Europa League and the fact that we haven't been selling players lately. We've just been letting them leave. So, are we profitable? No, we're actually not profitable right now, depending on how you look at it. But when we were profitable, and when we were making tons of money on and not paying out as much in expenses, we spent it, and we spent it poorly. We spent it on $90 million over the contract for Mesut Ozil. We wasted the opportunity to recoup some of our investment in Aaron Ramsey and Jack Wilshere. And I couldn't agree more. The people that if you're going to blame Kroenke, blame him for two things. Blame him for whatever you want. But in my opinion, blame him for the fact that he just couldn't give two shits about Arsenal and he's not an invested owner. But someone pointed out, it might even have been you, Andy, when's the last time Tottenham's owner made himself present? I mean, the chairman, Daniel Levy, is a very well-known figure, but I know he doesn't.
Here's the thing, though, Mike. They've got a fancy stadium. They've got a good coach, and they're in the Champions League final, and they've been progressing year after year. Right. If we were in that similar circumstance, people would love Kroenke. they wouldn't care if he wasn't at the matches. So I
Yeah,
totally
an
get that.
absentee owner isn't necessarily a bad thing.
No.
Unfortunately, if you feel like someone's not minding the shop and doesn't have the passion, for a club that has 100+ years of history, was previously owned by people from North London who bled and grew up around the club. That's the problem with
Mike Ashley shows up to every Newcastle match.
Yeah, he's not very loved.
There's that, but
he was about to be pretty loved, though.
So yeah, so one thing that the Kroenkes are doing is they're hiring a technical director, where we're seeing Edu come in once his stint with Brazil is up. It's an interesting one, the technical director, Mike, because you want someone in the role who knows football, who has a football mind. I loved Edu when he played for Arsenal. He was just one of those players. He's kind of like the Torreira, right? You can rely on him. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He got emotional in games. He was part of the Invincibles. So bringing him in, I think he's coming in to first instill that culture of, here's what Arsenal used to be. We have to maintain that. Even when we're going through this chameleon phase of having a manager who changes tactics often, I think he's going to come in and put kind of that fire on Unai to say, here's what we need. Very similar to Czech at Chelsea, right? If he goes in as their technical director, looks like a lot of teams are hiring players who have passion for the club, who are excited to be there and kind of know the history of the club as well. I'm hoping that our links to these South American football players are based off of his ability to look at that world of football and go, here, this is where I think. But I'm hoping, Mike, that Edu goes out and brings in other players. So we've got Lundberg at the club. Why not go out? Like, Boldy needs to go. The guy's a fucking useless sack of shit.
I mean, that's the rumors that Lundberg is going to replace Boldy in his position.
Yeah, but, we look at certain people like Adams and other football players who have their coaching badges and bring them back in, even if it's on a consultant basis. But I'm excited about his appointment. I think it's better to get football-minded people in and around the executive boardroom.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have. I've blown my whole wad on technical director opinions when the Monchi situation ended, and then the not Overmars. Who was it that? I mean, it's just been one after another. If it's Edu, great. If it's not Edu, great. But if it is him, I think we're going to be bringing like 843 scouts to the Copa America, in Brazil in a couple of weeks, because it seems like we are headed towards South America for players. And certainly Lucas Torreira, who is South American but was playing in Italy, you can find gems there, but I don't know that that's necessarily the best strategy. So we'll see. Shout out to the chat, by the way. We're going to shout out to all but two people in there. We got 312 Gooner, we got Archie, Matt Walker, Alonzo Spencer. So I've seen Becca in there, Ryan Fletcher, Mr. Arsenal Podcast, Matt Saad Dane, Syed, Andy Rhodes, I see, is in the chat. Well done there. Yeah, he is sexy AF. And then we got a couple Pratts who are one of whom seems to only know two numbers. And they're both.
Let's embrace them. I mean, Pete and Bob have likely been Chelsea fans since 2000 and maybe.
I'm going to go with 4. I'm going to go 2004.
No, I'm not even going to go that long. I'm going to go probably 2011. I bet they don't even know who Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank is. I'm sure they don't even know that Ranieri was their manager at some point. So if you're an Arsenal supporter and you're in the group, thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. If you're in the group, just ignore those two fucking cunts.
Or just give it back to him. I'm not going to censor.
Or you can give it back to him, but Bob Money is a Chelsea supporter and a San Francisco 49ers supporter. What two fucking franchises are more bullshit than those two? Yeah. Go fuck yourself.
Surprised he's not a New England supporter, to be honest.
He probably is. I'm sure he's the type of guy who
that's his AFC team.
Yeah, he can whip off a shirt and it will be a Man City shirt. You want to go use the question?
Chelsea was a small second division team in Fulham when I lived over there, so it's impressive how far they've come. I'm very proud of you guys.
Kerry, who's your NFL team? I know that you're down in Bama country. Do you support the NFL or have a team?
And now we're just going to wait for the – you're talking to people who can't talk back.
Yeah, but you can type. Get your fingers moving.
By the way, The fact that there's 2 Chelsea people in the chat and only one of them could figure out how to give us a thumbs down is even funnier than anything else. I would take it as a badge of honor to have 2 thumbs down on this pod. What is insulting is we only got 7 thumbs up, and there's been about 20-25 people that have been coming through here already. So anyway, let's do it. And if you can give us a thumbs up, and I'll appreciate it. And and then we'll just ask for donations. If you can figure out how to give us a donation, then by all means, go ahead. I just love that. Donations, bro. Donations. Oh, he doesn't have a Scooby. All right. Anyway,